Kevin Gordon here from AutoSavant.com with our video review of the 2013 Ford Mustang GT. I might as well just get it out of the way. Here's what makes up the 2013 Mustang GT. It has a base price of $34,300. This one is optioned with the 6-speed automatic transmission for $1,195. The electronics package with nav for $2,340. Rear sensing and security package for $700 basically. The Brembo brake package, which is $1,695. That also gets you the 19-inch tires that look very nice. Wheels and tires look very nice. It's got a rear video camera for $240 and the Recaro manual leather seats, which are wonderful. Of all those options, I can tell you, you can take this automatic transmission, flush it down the toilet. The electronics package with nav, do you need it in a pony car, muscle car? No, but I've said it before, and I'll say it again during this. This is my favorite version of navigation that Ford puts in a car by far. The rear sensing system, you need either the rear sensing system or the back of the camera in this car because you can't see behind you out of the rear view mirror. And the 19-inch wheels with the Brembos really do work well and look quite good. Oh, the grand total. With destination, which is $795, it comes to $42,855. So it's not inexpensive by any part of the imagination, but it's competitively priced in the modern V8 muscle car market. And the darn thing sure does run right along. So, we go through, the basics to start with. First of all, the driving position. You'll notice that I look like every picture of somebody you'll see driving a NASCAR. Okay, maybe I'm not quite as close to the steering wheel, but it's because of the fact that this has no telescoping in the steering wheel, and it really does need it. I am too close to the pedals. The height in here is fine for me. Actually, the Recaros sit as low as you sit in a Mustang, and that's one of those things about a Mustang is you don't really sit in it, you do sit on it, but because of that you get very good visibility out of here for something with as big of a hood as it has and big long doors. You don't really have any blind spots. Speaking of blind spots, Ford, I congratulate you. You've put blind spot mirrors on both mirrors now, and it works great. No need for any electronic nonsense. This works perfectly. If you merge into somebody in this car, it's really just because you were not paying attention. Now let's talk a little bit about that automatic transmission. Ford has finally outfitted an automatic to a Mustang that does have some kind of manual control over what's going on with it. But it is not all that bright or all that fast or all that friendly to use, because the only way you interact with it, as you interact with a automatic transmission when you have to, first choice of mine would always be paddles. Makes sense, your hands are always right here, going through the gears with them, kind of works out. Next would be some kind of stick that you slap in a direction. Of course, my preference would be you pull backwards to go up gears and you push forwards as you're slowing down to go down gears. Ford, much like they do in their trucks, has put a little toggle switch on here, which you press down to go into a lower gear and up to go into a higher one. It, again, is not all that fast, doesn't seem to rev match downshifts, and when you're hustling, if you need to get to the next gear, you need to guess a decent amount ahead of time to get this thing to figure out what it's planning to do and then to do it. The other thing that really hurts this car, well, hurts and helps because it's two different things, it has a limited slip transmission, and the damn thing sure works well. In the video we did where we may have spun the tires a little bit, it never thought about spinning just one. And when you put power down coming out of a corner, it doesn't think about spinning the inside wheel. That works great. What doesn't is it has a set of 331s on it, which are enormously tall. I mean, why in the world, other than fuel economy, which if you're buying this car for fuel economy, you're just doing it all wrong, would you put something this tall in this car? Especially with the automatic, because the automatic is even taller than the manual. So you get something that feels like it's in overdrive in anything but third gear, and it's got 6 ratios. Final complaint about the automatic transmission is the fact that it won't let you really run this car all the way up till redline. And that's one of the pieces of magic of this car with the manual transmission. The updated engine, this one, when you're running premium fuel, gets 420 horsepower, and it is the most linear 420 horsepower as far as it just gains in a perfectly straight line all the way to the red line that you can get. I mean, the only thing you can compare it to is the smaller engine that's in the BMW M3 as far as something that's as rev happy and as linear as this is. But with the automatic transmission, it just puts such a mute on it. It's really a shame. Here's the other interesting part. I've got the thing set to third gear. I came to a traffic light. It's still in third gear. It's not like it doesn't automatically downshift, which is fine because you can actually be pretty quick in this car with this engine just in third gear. It may actually be the only gear that you need. On anything but a really big road course, it's not going to get out of fourth. It's good for basically triple digit speeds in third gear. I mean, it's not going to get out of third. And it pulls pretty well from really low revs down in third. I'm not going to do a full separate review on the infotainment in the Mustang because we've been through this nav interface before, but I'll say it one more time. Ford, this is the best one you have. These buttons and the knobs, it all works great. It doesn't look bad. This could use to filter with the updated screen and updated interface of My Ford Touch into the rest of your cars. The stereo, when it's fine, it buzzes the doors in all honesty, but it does get loud enough to drown out pretty much anything you'd ever need to. But why in the world would you want to drown out something that sounds as good as this does? The other really good part about the Mustang is the steering and handling. I've been doing quite a bit of sort of testing and probing to try to put a really good stamp example on what the live axle, the solid rear of this thing does to it from a handling perspective. And it is true, if you need to lay down power out of a bumpy corner, it is from time to time gonna get a little nervous, I think you could say. It'll skitter and skip, although in the regular GT with the softer suspension tuning, in some ways that becomes less of a problem than it does in the stepped up versions of the Mustang. But the two things it does extremely well, if you need to lay down rubber somewhere, you'll notice you'll never catch this thing ever wheel hopping. I mean, it just puts down power the way it's supposed to with both rear wheels and tires planted firmly to the ground. And the steering on it is just great. I mean, it dives towards corners. That old, everybody says that, it attacks apexes. But the feel of it is great. The traction control in the Mustang remains a 3-stage system. Every time you turn the car on, it's fully on. Press it once, it turns off traction control, but not stability. Again, you can spin the tires in a straight line, but it won't let it walk before it starts to intervene. in spirited driving with the traction control off, it will let you have a little bit of tail angle, but not much before it starts to intervene. But the car stopped and a long press, it turns everything off, and when it's off, it's off. It's completely in your hands, which is really great because it's one of the magical things about driving a front-engined rear-wheel drive car, and that's the fact that the rear end becomes active. And it made me think of something. We were at the Cooper Tires Ride and Drive event, and Johnny Unser, the former Indy driver, was there. And he was talking about how to better understand the feel of a car. And I don't know why, but I had never thought to put it in these terms. And that's, you tell what the front's doing with your hands, and you tell what the back's doing with your ass. So what's going on with the rear tires is always transmitted through the seat, and what's going on from the front tires should always be transmitted through your hands. And in that, the Mustang does a really, really nice job. What's going on with the fronts comes through the steering wheel. It's not muted. I mean, is it razor sharp? No, there's some dead space in here, but as you get into a corner, what is happening with the front wheels is really well communicated to the hands, and what's happening with the backs, you always know what's going on with the backs in this car because of, especially with these seats in it. One of those things that Ford has done really well is lightly refresh the styling on the 2013 Mustangs. You get the heat extractors that are now on the hoods, a bit more aggressive looking front end, and they've sort of tightened up and cleaned up the rear end of it. The newer, shorter, ducktail rear ends of the Mustangs had their sort of lovers and haters when they first came out. I think it's a tighter looking car. Anything that you can cut off dead weight of the end outside of the wheels of a car, I think is typically a positive improvement, and I think they did a nice job of that on the rear ends of the Mustangs. So how do you sum up the $42,000 Mustang GT? Well, it's a really capable long-range cruiser. I mean, it is as comfortable as a sports car comes. And I think that's the key word. It is a sports car. It does all the things you want a sports car to do. It steers well, it rides as nicely as anything, it's actually entertaining to drive, it makes all the right noises. It's a sports car, and it's a really good one. Unfortunately, this one is a really good sports car saddled with a not-so-great automatic transmission. And on that, I'm Kevin Gordon from Autosavant.com. I look forward to talking to you guys soon.